I'd like to call the Interim Committee on Economic Affairs meeting to order here in this wonderful city of Virginia City on this, what's the date today? The 17th of July, 2026. I'll call the meeting to order. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Chair Brandon Lair,
Excused.
Vice Chair Ellie Boldman,
Here.
Senator Kenneth Bogner,
Excused.
Representative Ed Buttrey,
Excused.
Representative Brian Close,
Here.
Representative Jamie Isley,
Here.
Senator Josh Kashmeyer,
Excused.
Representative Nellie Nickel,
Excused.
Senator Mark Noland,
Here.
Representative Peter Strand,
Here.
Representative Morgan Teal.
Excused. So members, we do not have a quorum, but we are going to conduct the meeting all in order. We just won't have the ability to vote.
There are no action items on the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a point of personal privilege.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been in the Montana legislature since 2010, 15 years, and served on a lot of committees, had a lot of bipartisan work, and I really honor the interim work we do. I'm so thrilled to be here in Virginia City. I think that doing some of these statewide meetings is really important to be a part of the community and see the resources, and certainly in the investment that the state of Montana and the taxpayers make in Virginia City is, you know, it's wonderful and it's generational for tourism and economic development. I'm so thrilled to be here. But my point of personal privilege is that I was elected by our colleagues as the vice chair of this committee. But in my experience, when the chair is not here, the vice chair runs the meeting. So I do object that I am not the one running the meeting today. I would like for this to be brought up at the next meeting of Economic Interim Affairs. I'd like to, Jameson, what would be the next route on my objection that I'm not running the meeting today?
Mr. Chair, that's right. There aren't any microphones here. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, essentially, if a committee member wants to bring it up as a point of personal privilege next time, the committee can vote on maybe procedures, amending the rules for the committee in the event that the chair isn't here, who takes over, maybe having set in the rules of the committee. That's certainly possible. Obviously, there's no quorum here today, so the committee can't act or amend its rules on those.
So I guess on our very first meeting that we did as a majority vote that I would be the vice chair, and now that's sort of just been set aside today, or do we have something that says that I'm not the vice chair anymore, or?
I think that's a question to you, Jameson.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, well, actually, Matthew's been looking into this as well, but as I understand, under the legislative rules, that the chair has ultimate discretion on the rules. Now, can a committee make up its own rules? Yes, but currently the economic affairs rules default to the legislative rules, which allow the chair to designate the chair's replacement.
Okay, and was that done sort of in writing somewhere, or?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'm not aware of any requirement that has to be in writing. You would have to ask Senator Noland or members of the committee, Mr. Chair.
Could I address
That's
part of your
great.
question? Okay. So I've also had the privilege of serving, not quite as long as you, and I do understand where you're coming from on your concern. It is always been the purview of the chair in the legislature now. They have almost, I'd say half the time, have the vice chair. That's on the committee that I've sat on for 12 years.
I understand.
But it is the purview of the chair. And when I brought that question up, I don't know, 3 sessions ago, and the comment was, if the committee wants to change it, the committee can, because it's a committee purview. Is it bigger than that? It could be. However, the chair, as it stands now, has the purview to ask whoever he wants or she wants to serve as the chair. But you can, at the next meeting, bring that up.
So I guess for today's purposes, then, are you just saying that you're the chair?
Right, and I should have, when I began, I should have said that Chair Lur, Speaker of the House, called me and asked me, he said, I would like you to chair today this meeting. He wouldn't be able to be here. And my comment to him of what, did he have communication with others, which was you? And he said no. So apparently he didn't call you.
Okay, so
No, he
you don't
did
have
ask.
anything in writing?
No, he just asked me to do that, and it's a verbal.
I mean, I think that, like, in my day job, I'm a lawyer, and I think that we still have procedures that folks just don't walk into the room and say they're the chair for the day. I guess I'm a little, I mean, do we have rules anymore? In the words of, what's his name, and, never mind.
Representative Eiley.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Well. Serving
Chair of
right
the
now.
day.
Yeah, chair of the day, okay.
Yep.
So I just want, Jameson, I guess I want to just make a clarification so I truly understand. There is no legislative rule out there as to how interim committees select what the chair and then vice chair and what roles those two individuals play. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, there are rules, legislative rules. They're basically the default rules that legislative council establishes for interim committees. Interim committees are free to make up their own procedures and rules for that. In the absence of that, it then defaults to what the standard rules are. Essentially, what the standard rules are right now, and as you know, having been in committees, is the chair of a Montana committee has a lot of authority, has ultimate authority over the decorum of the room, over how bills are heard, over, as you know, very many things. This is one of those instances where the chair has ultimate authority on how the chair chooses, if the chair's not there, who would replace the chair.
So, Ms. Baldwin, your objection is noted, and we'd like to move on, if that's okay.
I would like just also to verify that, do we have anything in writing that Senator Nolan's been asked to be the chair today by the chair?
No, because he's not available. He's out paid. There is nothing in writing, Senator Baldwin. On a break, if you want to try and reach Speaker of the House Lur, he said he wasn't available today because he's hanging.
So I understood on our very first meeting that I was duly elected by our committee members as the vice chair. We had that vote.
That's correct. And as you just heard Jameson explain, the process, and the chair reached out to who he wanted to be chair, and he asked me if I would do that. That's all we can do today. I'm going under his purview. He did call me. He will verify that when you reach out to him. With that, your objection is noted. Mr. Walker.
So I guess I will object again. So procedurally, the next step would just be to take this to legislative council, or should we litigate it?
You do whatever you want.
I mean, what's
I'm going to
the,
let you do whatever you want. You're a lawyer, you probably know some of the ins and outs. And if you want to litigate it, go ahead.
and then I just think for the institution itself, that we continue to have collaborative working relationships and honor the way that we've done business for years and years.
Just so you know, and you've watched my committee over the years and other committees that I've served on, and the chair has always appointed who they wanted. This is nothing new here.
I disagree with that statement.
You've not seen that?
I've seen people abuse their power, yeah, but I don't agree that that's the
Okay, then.
interim committee process, no.
Okay, so noted. Okay, now we're going to go to administrative rule review. Jameson.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, welcome. Welcome to Virginia City. Lovely town here. It's nice to see everyone here. The way we've been doing the administrative rule review this interim is I've been sending you folks an email with the links, the hyperlinks to the rules. currently in front of the committee. I would say the issues, MAR issues 11, 12, and 13 are pretty prevalent in front of the committee right now. You got my email relating to MAR issue number 13. And as you notice from that, there are nine rules from the Department of Labor. Essentially, all 9 are implementing House Bill 246, and that was substantial equivalency. I think a term we've heard a lot. It's a good lesson in when the legislature makes large changes to professional boards and occupation laws. It does require quite a bit of administrative rules because there are a lot of boards, a lot of rules out there, various boards. So you have to do individual rule notices, rule packages for those. So this is nearing the end of that package implementing House Bill 246. So take a look at that. Also, additionally, there is a rule with the state auditor's office. That's 2026-146.1. It's relating to independent pharmacies. As you recall, that was a big issue for this committee earlier. I believe they had their hearing July 14th. They've received public comment, and from that point, it's in the agency's hand, the state auditor's hand, as to what they're going to do with that. If you have questions, what the committee can do, if the committee wants to know more about that or whatever, feel free to ask. Feel free to get in touch with me relating to that. I can also resend the rule to you folks, so it's key in your email accounts as well too. So it's at the very top. That's a pretty abbreviated version of the administrative rules, Mr. Chair. As always, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I check all the hyperlinks, so they should, if you get the emails, just click on them and it'll take you right to the rule and right to the Montana Administrative Register. But that's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We next have the Agency Oversight Department of Commerce. We are privileged to have our director here. I think is this our first time? I can't remember if this is our first time second time in front of our committee. I think the last time I was absent, but we're so appreciative of you coming here. And we are excited, like Senator Bolden mentioned, for being able to be here in this great part of the state. Share the wealth, if you will. I enjoyed my stay last night. It was wonderful, calming, and I saw the most beautiful lightning storm I think I've ever seen. Driving here for almost an hour, got to see the skylight lit up. It was 60 miles of it anyway. Beautiful. With that, if we could have Director Marta Jolian, I'm not going to say your name, I've known you a long time.
Thank you, Mr.
If
Chair.
you'd like to present, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Marta Bertolio, spelled Bertoglio, and that G is silent. And I'm the director at the Montana Department of Commerce. And yes, the last time I was here was a year ago, and what a year it has been. I've learned a lot in this role, a lot of great things going on in our state, a lot of hardworking people trying to push our economy forward. So I'm very happy to be here in Virginia City, and it was a lovely drive down here. And thank you to those who have been in the road show. We saw a couple of you yesterday trying to get the word out about our sunsetting programs, which you will hear later, as well as all the great things we do at Commerce. So we're going to start with a high-level overview of the agency. And if you go to the org chart, you'll see that we have a few divisions across the board. Destination Montana, that's our division that does the tourism. We've got housing, what a busy division that is with the Montana Board of Housing. And then community MT, think of that as your structure, getting in there, your water, sewer, infrastructure, and that is led by Galen Steffens. Business MT, we've got our division administrator here, Mackenzie Espeland. A wealth of knowledge. I've enjoyed watching her on the road show with all the programs she has under working with our businesses out there across the great state. Of course, in the director's office, that is the guts of the, you got your legal, your HR, accounting, marketing, and then business attraction is led by Katie Wilcoxon, and that is where we do our red carpets. We're out there talking to businesses, finding out what they need from us to sustain and grow, as well as getting out there and showcasing why businesses should move to Montana because it's a good business climate. I would say in the last 2 weeks, we had a wonderful business that has decided to relocate to Great Falls. It will be it does manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, and the mission in Great Falls will be specifically for space and aerospace. So we are going to have components up in space that come from Montana, and it's so exciting. Having been a space operations officer in the Air Force, I'm so excited for the future of Montana. So moving on from the org chart, we'll move on to our annual plan. And so we have 5 strategic outcomes: continue to create more high-paying jobs, bring the state of Montana's technology into the 21st century, improve customer service, accountability, and efficiencies. Our programs assist all areas of the state and reduce regulations in state government. So I'm going to highlight a couple things with each one of those strategic objectives. So as far as under continuing to create more high-paying jobs, we rolled out our Opportunities in Rural Economies program suite, and that is through the Big Sky Economic Development Trust Fund. And this really targets business planning grants. There's 3 parts of it: helping business planning grants, loan participation program, and capacity building grants for those local EDOs. We've also updated the Wood Products Revolving Loan Fund guidelines to reduce some cumbersome regulations and reporting requirements. And so we see more interest in that very important program, especially as we see our sawmills really struggling out there. Secondly, under bringing technology into the 21st century, some highlights include that we are replacing our aged housing software. That's been quite a big lift, and we are now reviewing the RFP responses. Secondly, we continue to onboard new agencies to the ServiceNow Grants and Loans portal. So right now we have ag and transportation also using the ServiceNow Grants and Loans. Thirdly, under improve customer service, accountability, and efficiency, some highlights include our new Welcome to Montana sign. I'm not sure if you saw that, but there was a vote. You could go on and vote for your top sign that you would like to see as the welcome sign as you come into the state. And so we rolled that out in April, and we have our new signs up on the Welcome to Montana at the border. And I know from being a veteran and driving across often, many years, that was home, seeing that big sign. So that was really exciting to roll that out. We continue to host webinars for our grants and loan programs so people can refer back if they're an applicant. We record those webinars so they can refer back, and we work hard to help our local communities understand the applications. Under programs that assist all areas of the state, I'd like to highlight that we track the training and travel for our communities across the state, and we measure the engagement. I will say from going on our road show, we're about halfway, I'd say, halfway through our road shows. Just really proud about the data we collect, like how many trainings, how many people have we actually helped? How many jobs are we creating across the state from doing all these trainings? And then lastly, I'd say under reduced regulations in state government, we continue to look through our arms, and we're trying to look at the ease of reading those arms, the regulations to lower the reading level. So those are just a highlight of our 5 strategic outcomes and goals. And then I'm going to hand it over to Deputy Director Rambo to continue on with what we're going to be asking in the next legislative session.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mandy Rambo, RAMBO. I'm the Deputy Director at Montana Department of Commerce. We have 6 agency proposed legislation pieces that we're bringing to you today. The first one the Director mentioned briefly, which is our sunsetting economic development programs. These are in statute, section 15-35-108 of the Montana Code Annotated. And we have worked with the Department of Agriculture on this bill because they also have sunsetting programs under the same statute. And that's why they're joining us on our roadshow this summer as well. It is 8 programs in total and just under $3.5 million that is allocated to these 8 programs. It is the Small Business Development Center, SBIR STTR, which is Small Business Innovation Research, and Small Business Technology Transfer. I always get that one wrong. It is a very long acronym. Our Certified Regional Development Corporations, the Montana Manufacturing Extension Center, and then our state match for our export and trade team so that they get the federal grant, which is the State Trade Expansion Program, or STEP grant. Those are the 5 at the Department of Commerce. At the Department of Agriculture, they receive funding for the Montana Cooperative Development Centers, their Growth Through Agriculture program, and then their Agriculture Development Centers as well. This was the sunset was last reviewed in 2019. We are not going to be coming in asking for an increase out of the coal severance. These programs do not cause the corpus of the coal trust to see a decrease. They live off of the interest. And so we are not asking for an increase in the dollar amount. We are just asking to extend the sunset of the funding for 9 years. And you might wonder, why 9 years? I'd love to tell you. We have a lot of pass-through funding, as you heard, the Montana Manufacturing Extension Center, the CRDCs, the Montana Cooperative Development Center. They also then use their state dollars to leverage federal dollars as well. A lot of those federal programs run on a 3-year cycle. So having ours be a multiplier of 3 years makes it easier for them to then access those federal dollars because they can say, we have this for the full scope of these federal grants. The second reason is because then this would have this ending on a non-legislative year. It is very stressful for the stakeholders whose organizations rely on these funds to be potentially waiting until April or even May to know if starting on July 1st of the same year, their organizations will cease to exist. And so this would put it ending on an even numbered year instead of an odd numbered year. So that is our first that we would be asking for. And again, it is just under $3.5 million of the interest from the coal severance that goes to those. Our second agency proposal is to revise the Micro Business Development Act. This is in section 17-6-402 of the Montana Code Annotated. It established the Micro Business Loan Program and created program requirements, including some very lofty reporting requirements. We have heard from our stakeholders that it makes it difficult to use this program or also disincentivizes them from wanting to use the loan program. So we would like to update the statute to remove overly burdensome requirements and streamline the processes so that these economic development organizations throughout the state can continue to provide these microloans to very small businesses in Montana. Our third is increasing the Montana Board of Housing bonds outstanding limit. This is in section 90-6-111 of Montana Code Annotated. Currently sets the board's outstanding notes and bonds allowed at $1.5 billion. However, we believe that they are going to exceed this in the next year, if not sooner. We are asking to increase that limit to $2.5 billion in order for the board to continue to meet their statutory obligation to increase the supply of affordable, attainable, and safe homes for Montanans. And this may sound similar to a bill you heard from Commerce last session, which was for our administratively attached Montana Facility Finance Authority, who asked to increase their bond cap last year. Our next is to establish rulemaking authority for resort area and community designations. This is found in section 7-6-1501 of the Montana Code Annotated, and it makes Commerce the responsible entity for completing the economic analyses to determine eligibility for resort areas and resort communities. This then allows those communities or areas to put to a vote to their constituents whether they install a local option sales tax. There is a local option sales tax here in Virginia City. They are considered a resort community. The difference between a community and an area is that a community is based on the city boundaries. The area is where they can submit any drawing of the outlines of the resort area. That is why we are asking for rulemaking authority, is because we cannot adequately plan for the workload that this creates for our team. We could have someone submit for, and this is a true story that has happened, we could have someone submit, this is the border, and it's a nice round circle of our resort area. And then our analysis tells them, you're not eligible to become a resort area. So then they say, oh, well, the truck stop is out here, so we're gonna have this little skinny line added onto our bubble. And then maybe they still aren't eligible. So then they add another little skinny line to get to the other truck stop down here as well. Allowing Commerce to have rulemaking authority would allow us to put limits on the number of times per year that the same community could come in and ask. By statute that was changed in 2023 by a bill carried by Senator Hertz, it clarified what businesses are used to make the analysis. This would just help us to clarify how often those could be submitted by communities so that we are able to adequately plan for the workload for the one person. We have one person who does this work, and it is less than 15% of his job is what it is supposed to be. It is closer to 50% of his job at this point in time. Each request takes over 40 hours of just his time. It also impacts the Department of Labor because they have to provide us economic data. And so this would just allow us to streamline that process, be able to adequately plan for our staff time for these requests. Next, I just mentioned this as I was talking about the Board of Housing's bond cap. The Montana Facility Finance Authority is also coming back requesting another increase to their bond cap. Last year it was increased to $1.5 billion per biennium. They will be asking to increase it to $1.5 billion per year. And the reason for that is in their pipeline, they currently have $1.2 billion in projects, and we are only halfway through the biennium at this point in time. So this would allow them to continue to meet their statutory requirements to issue bonds to what started out as nonprofit healthcare organizations. That has been expanded to several other nonprofit organizations who can utilize their financing. And this would just allow them to continue to be able to issue those bonds and meet that statutory requirement. And our final agency legislation is also for our administratively attached Montana Facility Finance Authority. This is for their CPACE program, and this is in section 90-4-1305 of the Montana Code Annotated, which sets the CPACE program requirements. In working with our stakeholders, it has been determined that additional cleanup of senior lender consent language is necessary, and that adding in the use of CPACE funding for ADA improvements for buildings would help to increase the utilization of the program. And so you probably did see a bill, or you did see a bill last session, which also had some cleanup language for CPACE. As we continue to work with states who are very good at the utilization with CPACE, we continue to see additional ways that we can improve our program, and that's why it was necessary to bring that bill. Happy to stand for any questions on the agency legislation proposals as well.
Okay, thank you very much. You opened the door so that we could ask you questions. I know it goes to public comment, but I thought I'd ask the members if you had any comments or questions I have a couple. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a number of questions, so I'm not sure if we want to allow public comment or we'll ask questions based on what they've presented and then allow public comment, and then we'll have more questions, I suspect. But I guess we'll go from there. So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my first question is to the director, or to, sorry, Ms. Rambo, what's your title?
Deputy Director.
Deputy Director. Either, but my first question is related to, that was new information. I really appreciate hearing some of the agency legislation. It's so important, and I know that I, not only on this committee, but through my work on long-range appropriations, Section F, am very committed to the work you do. I love the Department of Commerce, and you guys do wonderful work. I am hearing from a number of folks around the state, particularly through our League of Cities and Towns and MACO, their interest in the designation of tourist communities. And so I'd like you to elaborate a little more on this proposed legislation related to rulemaking authority to those designations. Was interested to hear sort of what's going on there. Why would we make changes? I know there's a number of communities that are interested, and some of them are some of our larger cities, in having an ability to do a local option sales tax and taking that to their own voters. So could you, I guess, provide a little bit more information, and how closely are you working with MACO and League of City of Towns on crafting that legislation?
Ms. Rambo?
Mr. Chair, Senator Boldman, that is a great question. So the legislation would just give us rulemaking authority. So we have not worked with League and MACO. Where we would work with them is actually creating the rules once we have that rulemaking authority. And what we would want to do is not stymie any community from being able to have this local option sales tax. We just want to be able to stop that continuous wheel of, well, what if we add this little piece of land? What if we add this little piece of land? And really ask the communities to come in prepared at the beginning, and submit a good proposal to begin with, and maybe give them two times that they can submit it instead of 5 and 10 times to submit the same thing that then is taking up a full week worth of our one staff member's time. So to answer your question, we have not worked with them. Our intent would be to work with them after we get the authority, when we're actually writing the rules.
Gotcha. And then, Mr. Chair, I have a different question. So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my next question is sort of unrelated, but to both of you. I was hoping to hear that a piece of agency legislation would be related to, and I hope that it can still be crafted, is a proactive measure for the Montana-Ireland Trade Commission, that after our next meeting, that we could mitigate some of the Department of Commerce involvement, leave the relationship in statute, but sort of curtail some of the staff time that we're utilizing based on that sort of initial round of where the current law stands, that we could sort of tweak that. And I was hoping that we could see that be some agency legislation. I'm more than happy to sponsor that moving forward as a member of the Montana-Ireland Trade Commission. But if that's something that we could just hopefully put on your guys' list as well, we'd appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, Senator Boldman, it is on our list, but I think we are waiting to take lead
Gotcha.
from the commission. And so in both, as you know,
Yeah.
but for the other members of the committee, in both the March and the April meetings of the MITC, the vote was not held for moving the commission to a nonprofit model.
Right.
And so I think once that vote is held, then we would be happy to craft legislation and work with the commission on that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? I guess everybody's this way.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Let's go ahead, Representative.
I was wondering, when you're talking about reading level for regulations, what reading level are you looking for? 12th, 8th?
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Director.
Representative, we're working on making it 12th or below.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, Representative Close, we do have some that are at like a reading level 82 right now, according to the software that we use. Yeah, so it's like higher than a post doctorate is what that would be. And some of it is weird things like you can't have semicolons without specific language afterwards. So some of it is just weird little tweaks that we have to make the reading level come down. But that is our focus, is to get that down. And some of those high outliers, like reading level 82, are easy ones to get our average down.
Follow up.
Mr. Representative Close.
Yeah. Is this particular to your agency, or is there an effort or of any other agencies
Miss-
looking at this?
Mr. Chair, Representative, it's across agencies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? So one of my questions, if I could, it doesn't matter who answers it, but if you can maybe elaborate a little more regarding the revised Montana Facility Finance Authority bond cap. What project, who's asking? We're in need of something, and I'm just wondering who's, maybe some more specifics of who
Yes.
is requesting the need? And then my other question is, you want to raise it from 1.5 billion per biennium to per year. So you must be hearing, like you just alluded to, you're only halfway through and we're already met the max. So is 1.5 billion per year enough or what?
Mr. Chair, that is a great question. I think 1.5 billion is what we think will be enough, and we hope will be enough for at least that 29 biennium post the 2027 session. We are hearing it from the folks who would access this financing. So very heavily, that is nonprofit hospitals throughout the state, but it also, the statute was opened up to allow for other nonprofit entities to utilize the bond financing provided by the Montana Facility Finance Authority. So it is coming from the MFFA board is requesting this legislation, but as the administrative agency for them, we present on their behalf. And then secondly, it's coming from their stakeholders who are saying, well, we have a project, but it's not ready right now. It might be ready next year, but they will have met their cap. And so they will not be able to provide that bond financing until July 1 of 27.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to add to that.
Go ahead, Director.
I know that Adam Gill, who's at the MFFA, he's actually working with DEQ. We're, as a state and as a country, we are behind in our transmission. And they're looking at a project with DEQ to update the transmission lines up in the northwestern part of our state with Bonneville Power. So that will help this as well.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to oh, yes. Now we have some questions. Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My understanding, going back to the economic development programming that you referenced, and that I learned about yesterday actually as well, I understand that investment in that programming hasn't gone up in 25 years or something. And I'm wondering, I could have that number wrong, but I'm just curious if you could dig into that a little bit more. Just put that on the table for us. I mean, you're asking to get the same amount that was put into this programming, a long time ago. And I'm just, if you could just discuss that or put
Yes,
that out.
Mr. Chair, Representative Strand, it was last increased in 2019 when the sunset was increased as well. So that funding was increased in 2019. We are not proposing an increase at this point in time in our agency legislation. Obviously, once it is in your hands, we realize that amendments happen, but we are not proposing an increase because as we are looking at the budget, it is going to be tight. And so I think we are hoping to just come in and say, these programs are great and they help our communities a lot. And so we want to just retain them, and we don't want a fiscal note to stop a bill dead in its tracks.
You have a follow-up?
Quick follow-up. I fully appreciate that. I guess I was looking for, and I was looking to hear more here in this environment about the power of this programming and how, I mean, it's very clear that this investment does so much for the state of Montana. And I just think it's really important for us to, I don't know, to just have that out officially on the table, the kind of impact that we have with this investment.
I would love to give some stats to this group, Representative Strand, Mr. Chair, if you would allow me. So for our small business development centers, this is for 1 year. And this is a team of 3. So I do want to be clear, our teams are pretty small but mighty at the Department of Commerce. They have a team of 3 who then also work with 10 small business development centers throughout the state. In the last year, they counseled 1,556 clients. Of those, 951 were new clients who had never been to an SBDC for assistance before. They helped to start 54 new businesses. They held 71 training events, including more than 638 attendees. And the assistance provided by SBDC led to a capital infusion, whether that is loans, grants, et cetera, received by the clients of $30 million, 171,201. And the total people served by receiving training or counseling was 2,008. And then for our certified regional development centers, This is one person at the Department of Commerce. And then we partner with 10 certified regional development corps throughout the state as well. They helped to close 44 loans for businesses in a dollar amount of $9.1 million. That leveraged nearly 27 million additional dollars. So essentially it's a 1 for 3 leverage that this program is helping to provide. They helped to create 162 new jobs, helped to retain 4,171 jobs, and they assisted 1,363 businesses. And then the CRDCs, I think it's important that you know that they're kind of the catch-all in their communities, especially as you look at rural communities. So although this focuses on economic development, they also do housing development, downtown revitalization, historic preservation, and kind of anything else that their community might need. And in the last year, out of those types of projects, they assisted 274 projects across the state outside of economic development. And then I will just share for our export team. Again, this is a very small team. It is 3 people. We received the highest dollar amount for our federal grant, which we use the sunsetting dollars as state match for. So they received $300,000 in the sunset program. And that allows them to leverage $900,000 from the Small Business Administration. Again, that's the largest grant amount received, matching states like California, Washington, et cetera. Those states have staffs of 12, 13, 15. We have a staff of 3. So a lot of their money is going to administration, where our money, that full $900,000, last year went out to 144 companies, allowing them to attend trade shows both domestically and internationally to grow their businesses. They supported over 2,900 manufacturers, and they completed 571 business consultations. And again, that's just in 1 year. I do have data for the Montana Manufacturing Extension Center as well. So in 2025, they served 127 manufacturers. They had a net promoter score, so this is their customer service score from their customers, of a 9.7 out of 10. They helped to create 391 jobs. They helped to create or retain sales of 55 million. They helped these businesses, these manufacturers, to receive over $14 million in new investments. And they helped to create a cost savings for these businesses of over $10 million. The return on investment to the Montana taxpayer was $4.05. The return on investment to the U.S. taxpayer was $18.01. And the return on the investment to the businesses who utilized the services of MMEC was $35.97. Thank you for letting me do that.
And Mr. Chair, may
Yes,
I
Director.
plug, and thank you, Representative, for asking that. May I plug the rest of our road shows? Because
Go ahead.
you will see local stories. You'll see how that MMEC, their organization literally took one person's idea, whether it's ag, and how they help them scale through manufacturing. It's amazing, these organizations. And for $3.5 million, all that we leverage for the rest of the state is very worthwhile.
And those dates are July 28th in Kalispell, July 29th in Missoula, August 11th in Wolf Point, August 12th in Glendive, and August 25th in Helena. If you cannot make one of the future dates, we will also be scheduling a webinar in early September. We'll do 2 versions of it, one which will just be on the sunsetting programs, which will include McKinsey and then her counterpart, Andy Fieseth at Department of Agriculture, and then one that will be about all commerce programs.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. No further comments?
Would you like us to leave? Yes?
I guess so. We'll now go to public comment. If there is any public comment that would like to come up, and we're asking you to come up to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members
Yes,
of the committee.
thank you so much. And you might be asked to come back up, but we'll see. So is there any public comment for the Department of Commerce on this particular subject?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Representative Ken Walsh, spelling W-A-L-S-H, House District 69, located right here. My comments are going to be directed about Virginia City, Nevada City, and Montana Heritage Commission. That wasn't included in their presentation, but looking at the agenda, it looks like that's part of their oversight, and so I thought I'd take this opportunity. Just a little bit of background. I've been a resident in Madison County for over 60-plus years and was very active in the legislation back in 1997 when the state purchased the property from the Bovee family estate. But first of all, welcome, and appreciate you being in Virginia City. Hopefully you can, if you haven't already, meet some of the locals, walk the streets, see the buildings, see the artifacts, because your presence here matters. These people are very proud and passionate of their opportunities that they have right here in Montana. And seeing it is believing it, and learning about it. You can put it in reports, you can put it in pictures around here and those type of things, but you actually have to live it, and I think that's important. So I appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedules. I know that you have to come here. For those that maybe might not be quite as familiar with the history of Virginia City, it was born from Alder Gulch Gold Strike. It quickly became a center of the territorial governance and served as a territorial capital from 1865 to 1875. And if you will walk up Main Street here, or the highway, you'll find that a building that's called Stonewall Hall, which is in the process of being regenerated and part of the territorial capital part of it. In recognition of the historical significance of Virginia City, together with Nevada City, was designated as a National Historic District, one of the highest levels of federal historic designation. These towns not only preserve the artifacts in Montana's past, but they're living communities whose culture, economic, and historical contributions continue today. Your engagement to ensure that decisions affecting the irreplaceable assets are informed, balanced, and grounded in the realities of southwestern Montana. Substantive comments and concerns. Recent termination notices issued to longtime concessionaires have created unnecessary instability for the families, businesses, and the local economy. Many of these concessionaires had invested decades of labor, capital, and community engagement in maintaining and improving the historic assets under their care. Canceling leases without clear justification, transparent criteria, or meaningful dialogue undermines the trust and threatens the continuity of the operations that visitors and residents rely on. Proposed the increase in lease payments. Significant increases in lease payments, especially when paired with shortened timelines under unclear valuation methods and limited negotiation, place disproportionate burden on small businesses. Fair market value must be developed through defensible methodology, stakeholder input, and transparent process. Abrupt increases risk driving out the very businesses that help sustain Virginia City's heritage and visitor experience. The 99-year lease option under House Bill 69, which I carried, was intended to be a narrow tool to attract substantial private capital for new long-term investment partners. It was not intended to justify the cancellation or the alterations of existing concessionaire agreements. The early implementation appears to conflict with these two categories, raising concerns that extended term lease authority is being used to replace long-standing local businesses rather than support. The pause that's ongoing was necessary. And again, collaboration and defining the goals needs to be part of the implementation process. And repeal may be even necessary. Lack of collaboration with the Virginia City residents and businesses. Virginia City and Nevada City are living communities, not museum exhibits. Decisions that affect livelihood, historic assets, and visitors' economy must include the people who live and work here. To date, communication from the Department of Commerce has been limited, inconsistent, and also dismissive of local knowledge. The absence of meaningful collaboration has left residents feeling unheard, unacknowledged, and structured stakeholder engagement process is essential. The Montana Heritage Commission must be reevaluated for its relevance, mission, and governance. The enabling legislation back in 1997 established the Montana Heritage and Preservation Commission. The Montana Heritage Commission was established to ensure that the stewardship of Virginia City and Nevada City reflect local knowledge, citizen involvement, and a balanced approach to preservation, interpretation, and economic viability. Early legislative reviews and subsequent evaluations repeatedly emphasized that non-government citizen participation should be central to the Commission's decision-making. The Commission was never intended to function as a passive advisory body. It is designated to be an active, engaged steward of Montana's most historic assets. Recent actions suggest the Commission's role has diminished or become unclear. Key decisions appear to be made without full Commission engagement, transparent public deliberations, or meaningful input from communities most affected. This drift from the Commission's original purpose undermines the public trust and weakens the collaborative model that sustained these towns for decades. The Montana Heritage Commission should function like the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Commission, the Montana Transportation Commission, or other commissions that are fully involved and engaged, both of which set policy direction, provide oversight, ensure public accountability, and serve as a governing body for major state responsibilities. Virginia City and Nevada City deserve a commission with similar authority, clarity, and independence. One that actually shapes policy, vision, and long-term stewardship rather than merely reacting to administrative decisions. I recommend a formal review of the Commission's relevance, mission, governance structure, and statutory authority. It is necessary to restore the intended role of the primary policy-setting body for these historic assets. Citizen representation must remain central, not peripheral. Sustainability cannot be defined solely by dollars. True sustainability includes preservation of historic assets, buildings, and artifacts, protection of cultural identity and community character, support for small businesses, and animate and interpret these historic towns. Long-term stewardship of place, not short-term revenue maximization. Virginia City's value to the Montana is cultural, educational, and historical. Private business owners play a critical part in interpreting the heritage for visitors. Marketing, programming, and business development must be done with these partners, not around them. I respectfully urge that the Department of Commerce, Montana Heritage Commission, and the legislature to pause any cancellations and increases in leases, clarify the intended use of the 99-year lease authority, ensure that it's not applied to existing concessionaire contracts. Reevaluate the Montana Heritage Commission's mission, authority, governance structure to restore its intended purpose as a policy-setting body with strong citizen representation. Engage directly with Virginia City residents, concessionaire, and local businesses through structured listening and collaborative planning. Develop a sustainability framework that balances financial responsibility with preservation, cultural integrity, and community viability. Restore trust by committing to open communication, defensible decision-making, and respect for the people that have stewarded these historic properties. The department needs to provide transparency in the budgeting process and provide accountability. Sources of revenue, comparisons to the legislature and to the public for ongoing collaboration. Thank you for my comments.
Thank you, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to take a point of personal privilege.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the body. So we are a citizen legislature. I'm an attorney in my day job, and I have a child protection matter where I have to be in a courtroom via Zoom in 3 minutes. And I'm deeply disappointed because I will try to be back in here as quickly as I can. I am incredibly moved and agree with everything Representative Walsh just shared. I have been for so long invested in Virginia City, and I supported the bill that Representative Walsh, but I want to assure folks that when the media and people back home get to view this publicly available meeting, which apparently will be online in a week, that until coming here in person, I didn't understand what a crisis this community is in. The state of Montana owns a substantial portion of the commercial and historic properties in this community. We are standing here in the middle of July at the height of tourist season, and the number of closed buildings, this community seems dead to me. And I am greatly alarmed. People need to hear back home what's going on. I'm asking that this issue be on our next Economic Affairs Interim Committee meeting, which is on August 18th. And I'm also asking this issue to be forth on the next long-range appropriations Section F meeting that we have, which oversees Montana Heritage Commission and the Department of Commerce and the buildings here. This is a situation that people back home needs to know is in crisis, and I want that on the record. Thanks. I got to go take a call.
thank you. Any further public comment? This is regarding the Department of Commerce. If you could please state your name.
Yes, my name is Duke Yeoman. I'm the Madison.
In the middle.
Yep. See it there? There you go. Thank you. My name is Duke Yeoman. I'm Madison County Commissioner for this district, including Virginia City. And I absolutely agree with everything Mr. Walsh stated. And so I don't need to talk very long. It sounds like from what the statements just made by the the board member that you are all concerned, and I'm glad to hear it's going to be put on the agenda. I am also very concerned with what went down. We lost some very important local vendors, and it feels like to me it could have been done a little better. And you're seeing some of these closed shops, or maybe they're not open all the time, you know, to have different time frames, and that could have been prevented, I think. So I just appreciate having the chance, the opportunity to show that my concern for what has happened here. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Yeoman. Any further public comments?
Is it? Oh, there we go. Good morning. My name is Maria Porchavina, M-A-R-I-A, P as in Paul, O-C-H-E-R-V-I-N-A. And thank you. I was not prepared to make any comments.
I'm not sure your light's on.
It's on.
It's on,
Oh,
okay.
am I just,
There you go.
oh, get a little closer. Usually I'm told I'm too loud. Okay, maybe that's just when I tell jokes. Anyway, I agree with everything that Representative Walsh said and the Commissioner. So I am the Executive Director of the Tourism Region of Visit Southwest Montana. Virginia City, Nevada City, along with Reader's Alley are in my district, are in my area for tourism promotion. We are funded through bed tax dollars. I won't get into all of that. If you want specifics, I am sure that Mandy can line you out on all of that. My husband thinks I'm having an affair with someone down in Virginia City because I've spent a significant amount of time down here. People in my own region, in the 9 counties that I represent, are not aware that this is completely open. What I'm trying to share with visitors is that to the visitor, Virginia City isn't that much different, but it is different, okay? It's a little bit on the scary side. If we lose this asset for our visitors, which is on the long end only available 5 months a year, but really their operating months, I don't care how you slice it. The main months of tourism is the middle of June to the middle of August. And it's scary to think that I am in Cardwell, at the Cardwell store earlier this week, and the manager, I have brochures, Virginia City's open. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm standing there going through their brochure. Please do something. Please save this asset. I came down here 2 years ago with my nephew who's 40, with my youngest grandson who was 4. There's myself who's just a little older than 40. You can laugh. Okay. Anyway, everyone in our group thoroughly enjoyed being here for the day. The players are doing their theater, the Brewery Follies. My granddaughters, 13 and 9, want to come down next week. We're going to have to make it the week after because my husband's going to question. But they want to just come down and spend the night at the Fairweather. We can't lose these assets. And then take a walk around and look at these buildings. They need a lot of love. We're going to be losing this completely. So it's just a plea. I'm in the trenches, so I'm visiting with our visitors. I'm visiting with the people who send our visitors to other places. My whole goal, and has been for all the years that I've been working in tourism, which has been since the late 1970s, has been if I can't keep people in my community, I need to keep them in my region, and I need to keep them in my state. And this is one of the best ways we can keep people in this region. Now, this weekend, the variety of visitors who do come here, this weekend they're hosting a Porsche rally. Okay, I can't afford to own a Porsche, probably don't really care to. I have 6 grandchildren. But to think that you have people who own Porsches that are going to spend the weekend here, that's a high level. That's a high bracket type of visitor coming to Virginia City, Nevada City. Then we've got these people who are riding the BDR, which is a backroads motorcycle. They're not doing paved, they're doing backroads, gravel, if you will. They're starting in Island Park and heading north. They're coming through here in droves. I mean, they're coming in, granted, they're not sleeping here, they're spending money. I was here earlier this week visiting my boyfriend. Anyway, I was here earlier this week, and the number that we're having lunch just popping in. So it really works with the diverse group of visitors, and we need to keep this. So it's a plea on my behalf. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments? Deputy Director, if you could come up. There's been some things poised to the commerce,
Yes.
and if you had anything you'd like to
Yes.
help address, alleviate maybe some fear, but also everybody, we do hear you.
Yeah.
Next step is doing something about it, which Representative Walsh knows, so go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So in an attempt to not be overly long, I do want to go back to what started the contract continuity project, which is what occurred in December of 2025. I started at Commerce in 2022. There was an executive director of the Montana Heritage Commission at that time who had been with the commission for 10 years. I became the acting deputy director later the same year, 2022, and had some concerns about ProCard logs, financials, and invoices, which I then started digging into. In spring of 2024, that came to a head, and that executive director chose to resign. At that point in time, my team and I continued our investigation into the misdeeds. We ended up giving that information in June of 2024. It was specifically June 25th of 2024. I know that because it's the day before my birthday. We provided that letter to the legislative auditor, the attorney general, and to the Helena Police Department because the treasury is located in Helena, so matters of the state are part of the Helena Police Department oversight. That executive director and one of his cohorts, who was a tenant in Reader's Alley, were both arrested and have been formally charged with embezzlement and money laundering to the tune of more than $300,000. I do want to be clear that our investigation went from 2020 to May of 2024. However, that executive director had been in this role since 2012. So I think that there is a great likelihood that there was more malfeasance and more dollars that were missing. At that point in time that he resigned, I was called many names by members of the commission. The governor and lieutenant governor were told that I should be fired, that I was disparaging a good man. I felt like I was doing the right thing, and so I continued to do the work that I was doing to try and clean up what I found to be gross misconduct of a state employee and gross misuse of state taxpayer dollars. He did eventually plead guilty, as did his cohort, to take lighter sentences. My running joke is that if he only has to serve 25% of his prison sentence, which is likely because this is a nonviolent crime, that my team and I will have a longer sentence than him trying to clean up the misdeeds that he did for the 12 years he was in charge of the Heritage Commission. Now on to the contract continuity project. In addition to just the straight out theft of state dollars, this executive director also gave backhand deals and wink and a handshake deals to several people, including making payments to people for work that we cannot prove was done, giving people lesser rent than similarly situated businesses within Virginia City, and just generally treating people differently. That isn't how the state should operate. Some examples I can give you is that one restaurant was paying 5% of their gross liquor sales, while other restaurants were paying 12 and 13 and 15% of total gross sales. Some other examples that I can give you is that a local city official was allowed to graze her animals on MHC property for free. For those of you who engage with the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, you know that that is not allowable, that grazing is supposed to have a specific rate for it. Additionally, grazing causes ground disturbance, which is a violation of our oversight as the administrative office in relation to the State Historic Preservation Office's oversight of state-owned historic properties. And so a lot of issues. We continue to peel back layers of the onion. It is the gift that keeps on giving. I don't want to say that everything is the fault of that prior executive director, but we continue to find things that we did not know that he had done. We were unaware of, and we just have to continue to work towards a resolution. The contract cancellations were allowed in the prior contracts. It was a legal decision made by the department to make the contracts have continuity from like business to like business. We did do research into what other restaurants specifically charged for buildings like ours, where we are providing a full kitchen setup, and in the case of two of our vendors, a full liquor license. In the case of a third vendor, a beer and wine license. For those of you, I'm looking at the two of you specifically, a liquor license in your area in Bozeman recently went for over $5.5 million. One of our concessionaires, who we provided a full kitchen and a liquor license for during the summer of 2025, paid us less than $6,000 in rent. That specific concessionaire also, when we took back over the property after his contract canceled and he chose not to renew under the new terms, was in a complete state of disrepair. It took us more than $32,000 in cleaning and safety mitigation to clean up that restaurant to get it ready for our new concessionaire. There was a pot of soup that had been left since Halloween, the last night that they were open, that had dead mice floating in it. It makes me kind of dry heave to think about it, and I couldn't look at the pictures without dry heaving when that first happened. It was atrocious. And so I want to be clear that our intent was never to push people out, but our intent was to meet what our statutory obligation is, which is that we are supposed to make money off of these buildings. I did a lot of research into the 1997 legislature, not to age myself, but I was 11 then. So I have reviewed all of the committee hearings from House Bill 5. I have listened to them late at night. And the intent was that the properties that were purchased from the Bovey family should make MHC self-supporting. It is mentioned several times in House Bill 5 from the 1997 session that the MHC should be self-supporting. I want to be clear that it is not. They receive over $1 million in bed tax funding, despite the fact that Virginia City proper brings in less than $35,000 in bed tax annually. This is one allocation of bed tax that goes to just a specific city, where no other bed tax goes to like specific cities or properties. They also receive a portion of the license registration fees. So when you register your vehicle, you can check mark the box that says, I want to register my vehicle to have access to state parks. MHC also receives a portion of that, although they are not considered a state park. These contracts have already been canceled. We have already moved on to a new season. I do want to be clear to Senator Boldman's comment, and I wish she was here to hear this. The properties owned by the Montana Heritage Commission are as open as they were last summer. We have the same exact number of concessionaires as we did last summer. Last summer, the difference was that the Gypsy Arcade was open. However, we did not have a gold panning concessionaire. This year it is flip-flopped. We are having gold panning, which I think is significant, knowing the history of Virginia City, that we allow gold panning. And then we do not have the Gypsy Arcade open. Regarding the comment on specific hours, there were hours in some of the contracts previously that we required our concessionaires to be open. The issue there is, how do you manage that? Because if they can't open for a day, what are the teeth that you have for them violating their contract? To terminate their contract in the middle of the season, and who does that help? So we have allowed our concessionaires to run their business the way that they see fit, and to run it and have it open for the hours that they believe is going to get them the most bang for their buck, and that they are going to see the highest revenues possible. At this point in time, we only have revenues from our flat rate leases. So those are leases for businesses that we do not have substantial financial input into their business. So we have not given them a liquor license. We have not given them a full kitchen. We have not provided infrastructure for them outside of the building. We have their revenues. They are showing increased revenues from last year. We only have a partial month, May, for those that are what we would call our percentage-based concessionaires. Those are our restaurants, our bars, and our hotels. The reason that they are allowed a longer time frame to pay us their rent is they pay us a percentage of their gross revenue. So we give them a longer lead time for them to calculate out their invoices and get us that payment. We have already committed at the June Section A Interim Budget Committee that we will be coming back in December to provide an overview of the increased revenues from January to December of 26 versus January to December of 25. We have seen that is increased at this point in time. We did also terminate all of the leases in Reader's Alley to make them have continuity there as well. We did have some folks in Reader's Alley who chose to leave. There was 2 in Reader's Alley and 3 in Virginia City. We have filled all of the places in Reader's Alley, and the shops that are open in Reader's Alley are shops that were open prior to this contract continuity project. We do have a new executive director who started in January. He is unable to be here today because it is the summer season and they are busy. We also had 2 of our seasonal staff turnover unplanned for this week. And so he's got his hands full right now. He's doing a great job. He already has notes of what he wants to do differently next summer, how he thinks that we can run things better. I will close in saying, collaboration has to work 2 ways. My team cannot have threats of violence, threats of death, name calling and screaming phone calls from people and expect for us to want to sit down at a table with them. And that is not an exaggeration. I had to be followed around by Capitol Security personally because I received threats of death. So I do just want to be clear that we are willing to collaborate, but collaboration takes both parties being civil, being professional, and also being willing to both give and take. Collaboration does not mean that one side gets everything that they want. And it is impossible for the Heritage Commission to do some of the things that they used to do for the city because it is illegal based on our statute and for us to pay for some of the things that we were paying for. So an example I can give you is that there is a statute that says that state agencies may pay local municipalities or local volunteer fire departments for fire service if and only if there is an appropriation by the legislature. The Montana Heritage Commission was providing a payment to the Virginia City Volunteer Fire Department without an appropriation from the legislature for multiple years. We discontinued that, and we are continually called to the carpet for doing that. We do not have an appropriation, and the statute is clear of what we are allowed to spend our money on. And so, again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't ask for an appropriation. I'm not saying that that isn't a good idea. I'm saying we have to follow the statute that is in law right now. And that is the big thing that we are focused on is continuity between all of our concessionaires so that we are not playing favorites because we as the state cannot do that. Cleaning up the criminal malfeasance from a prior executive director who is now serving time in the Montana State Prison system, and then making sure that this is viable. And I did say I was closing. I'm going to close with one last thing. Virginia City is special to me. My aunt worked for the Bovee family in the late 80s. She is the youngest of 5. My mom is the oldest of 5. So my brothers and I got spoiled by her a lot because we were the oldest grandkids on that side of the family. I came to Virginia City nearly every single summer with her and heard her stories about working for the Bovees. Some of them I did not hear until I was older in life because they involved her time at the Pioneer Bar or Wells Fargo Steakhouse. But it is special to me. She would bring my grandma with me. My grandma passed about 3 years ago. So I have very great memories here. I want to preserve Virginia City, but I also don't want to be the department that does things illegally, incorrectly, or that does things in a way that leads to a legislative audit finding. And that was what we are up against, and that is what we are trying to clean up. Thank you for letting us comment.
Thank you. So those of you who are new to this committee, this interim committee, you got to hear a lot. Government, and this is for the public, government isn't easy. Trying to do the right thing isn't easy. Having public comment from our good citizens is what this is all about. So we get to hear what you have to say. We get to take this information, decipher it, reevaluate it, and say, okay, how can this work better? Could there have been some better communications? I know some of the things that they tried to do. And when you don't get response back, you go forward and you go forward with your plan. Then you get threats. I mean, some of the stuff that I heard just boggled my mind. Why? What? So we all need to work together, citizens. We hear you. We do want to provide what's legal. And I'm not making a statement from the committee. I'm making a statement right at the moment from Mark Nolan, so Senator Nolan, because we haven't discussed this. But in general, that's what we do. We get this information, we glean it, we study it, we do our research, we ask input, we engage, and then during session we make a tough decision, many times. But your information is greatly appreciated, you citizens. And it hasn't fallen on deaf ears. Again, has things maybe happened, could have things happened a little different? And maybe could have been a little smoother? But see, some of us didn't know some of the things, like I don't think these fine gentlemen here had the privilege of what you just expressed. I don't think they knew that. I've been around long enough and I've watched it and followed it. It's a tough, again, government's tough. But we got to do the right thing for the state of Montana. That's why we're here, because we decided we wanted to make a difference on that green and red vote, what's best for the citizens of Montana. So Director and Executive, or Deputy Director, thank you so much for coming and presenting.
Thank
Thank you.
With that, we're going to take a short break. Let's give ourselves 10 minutes. Let's come back at 10:30. If we could have the interim committee, Economic Affairs Interim Committee come back to order, that'd be great. We got a little bit behind. We had some good information earlier. Yeah, we're enjoying the wonderful weather outside. With that, we'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's the staff's task overview. If we could turn to have Matthew Weaver, our research analyst, move forward.
Chair, committee, so I'm just going to go through a variety of things, mostly to get you prepared for August 18. So again, we have no quorum today. There's no executive action that was planned to be taken, nor could it be taken. So this is just to kind of to lay the ground for August 18. Expect that to be a very long day with a variety of topics to be covered. So number one on my list is just to kind of give you an update of the provisional draft progress related to Kratom. I want to preface this with this that I'm going to hand out is the progress, but understand that it's still subject to change. I'm working with Senator Noland on one and then Representative Lear on the other. There is still subject to change between now and August 18, but just to give you an idea of where this is headed. So I'll hand out this PD 003, which is related to a ban for Kratom. And once that's handed out, I'll mention where you can look on the pages. If you turn to pages 2 and 3 of PD 003, you'll see at the bottom of page 2, hydroxymitragynine has been added to Schedule 1 under subsection 1. And then on page 3, mitragynine has been added to the Schedule 1 list. So that's the progress for the ban. There's a variety of approaches. 7 states that have banned Kratom, that's kind of their main approach. But there's a variety of ways that it could be done. And again, working with Senator Noland, there is the possibility here that it gets changed between now and August 18. But PD 03, as it stands, that's the approach for the ban on Kratom. Next, I'll hand out PD 004. And this is, we've seen this a few iterations in the committee. This is the request to have HB 407 from 2025 session essentially reworked and adjusted for the 2027 session. Once you, there's really not much for me to say here in terms of go look at these pages. It's HB 407, minor editing, but anything significant edit-wise, I've left alone. Again, there's still some scope for this to have some minor changes should Representative Lear choose to change anything between now and August 18. But for all intents and purposes, PD 004 is essentially the Kratom Consumer Protection Act that we saw in 2025 and that we've seen in this committee a few times. So please feel free to look at both of these and be prepared for any of that, any discussion about that on August 18. Otherwise, if there's any updates, I will send those out to the committee and have that posted in advance of the next meeting on August 18. And that's what I've got related for the updates on the Kratom drafts. Next, I'll move to Representative Close's request at the last meeting to get an idea about the workload that could be required should the committee be interested in looking at revisions to the property manager licensing exemptions. I'll hand out the public comment from the Montana Legal Services Association, which sort of prompted Representative Close's discussion point. And then I will also hand out a copy of 37 TAC 56104 of the Montana Code Annotated, just so you can have a copy of the specific statute that was being addressed by those comments and that Representative Close wanted to look at. And if you turn to the Montana Legal Services Association comment, the stapled thing that we just handed out, if you look at pages 1 through 3, you'll see like a little headline on page 1, analysis of the exemption statute, and that topic goes on to page 3. That's really what this revolves around. Again, the request was to give the committee an idea of what the workload would be. I've also reached out to MLSA to kind of get their insight about what that workload could entail. And the answer is, it depends. So if the exemptions were just a straight striking of certain subsections in 3756-104, it could, from a drafting perspective, it could just be a simple strike through, really a very minimal workload required for that. Now, if you wanted to do a more significant approach to it, that could radically change, and it could be a very significant workload requirement. So it all depends on the type of approach that would be requested, and that's essentially that. Again, to some, it depends. Various ways to go about it. And then finally, to get ready for the August 18 meeting, and we can talk about this more during the discussion, but one of the big things I wanted to kind of get the committee prepared for is the agency legislation. We've already heard from the Division of Banking and Financial Institutions, and then today the Department of Commerce. I'm going to hand out a memo from the Office of Budget and Program Planning. This is procedures for interim committee review of agency bills. And I'll just hit a few points for that, just to get you primed for August 18. As you look at this piece of paper, it's front and back. The back is just some examples of the differences between committee bills and agency bills, how they would look. But as you look at the front page, which has all the bullet points, if you go down to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th arrows, I'll just read these out loud, starting on the 3rd one. Pre-introduction, this is related to agency and committee bills. Pre-introduction allows legislative staff to draft agency bills prior to session. This gives drafters a head start and provides more time after the November elections for requests from individual legislators. Pre-introduced bills may be scheduled for hearing early in the session while other bills are being drafted. Next bullet point. Authorization to draft an agency bill is not an endorsement. If an interim committee does not approve an agency proposal, agencies or the governor's office will ask a holdover senator or an unopposed legislator to request the bill for the agency as one of their drafts. After the election, any legislator may request the proposal. Using the process reduces the requests from the governor's office to legislators for draft requests related to agency priorities. And then the final bullet here, the 5th one, that I wanted to point out. The preferred method for the committee is to authorize the drafting of the whole package of agency proposals in a single motion. So August 18 is expected to be heavy on agency proposals. Again, we've already heard from a couple of the agencies under the Economic Affairs Interim Committee's purview, but expect August 18 to be very heavy for the rest, or at least a good proportion of the other agencies under the committee's purview. And I think the big thing to point out is just that authorization to draft an agency bill is not an endorsement. So if you're uncomfortable with something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're endorsing it if you're approving it. It's really, the idea is to get things, the drafters, working on things in advance of session so that we can have stuff ready to go from day one, essentially. So I just wanted to point that out for your preparedness for August 18th. Just going to move along the agenda here. One more thing to mention is public comment for today is located in your folders, kind of in the bottom underneath the other papers that you've had. So just be aware, any public comment, because the Zoom function / attendance is in person only. We've received some written comment to be presented today, or for you to be able to be heard today, considering the location / the technical requirements. So with that, I know that's a few topics there. I think, Chair, I can hand it back to you if you wanted to deal with any public comment, or ready to handle any public or committee discussion.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and go to the public comment. And we'll start, those of you who have the list, we started off with the kratom ban, then we went to HB 407. So we're going to go in that order. We'll start any public comment. First of all, let's start with the Kratom issue. So public comment from members of the public.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Is my voice picking up on the mic?
Nope,
No.
yeah.
You'll have to sit and, yeah.
Is it on?
We'll start over. Good morning.
It's on. Is the green light on?
Green light's on.
Yep, you're good.
All right.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, E.J. Redding, R-E-D-D-I-N-G, here this morning on behalf of the Montana Cattlemen Kratom Association, which is a trade association consisting of manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers of these products. A number of things have changed in this market and in this world since the last Economic Affairs Committee meeting, including earlier this month, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency scheduling 7-OH and all synthetic 7-OH products. Goes into effect August 1st. Those products are illegal in the state of Montana and the rest of the nation. Big question is who's enforcing it? I mean, right now, just down the road here, just down the road 60 miles, I can walk you into a store where products that have been illegal in Montana since 2021 are being sold on the shelves right now. Who's going to enforce? When's this going to happen? And none of the legislation that we have discussed yet actually addresses that enforcement issue. Earlier this week, the Law and Justice Interim Committee had a presentation from the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services from their medical team. The medical doctors reviewed and did a deep dive on Kratom and 7-OH, and I strongly encourage this committee to look at that presentation. I left Mr. Weaver a hard copy of that presentation, and I believe I sent the link. Information that we've not seen in any committee to date from the medical side of DPHHS. And we are strongly in favor of regulation of natural leaf kratom products. Regulation meaning an age gate. Warnings. We're not in favor in any way, shape, or form of the bill that accomplishes a ban without actually saying ban in the legislation. But again, wanted to make the committee aware of the changes that have happened since the last meeting of Economic Affairs, and strongly encourage you to look at the presentation from Law and Justice on Tuesday of this week from the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Redding. Is there any further public comment? And if you could, when you come to the mic, just please state your name and then spell it. And sign in at the, as you just saw Mr. Redding sign in. Do we have any further public comment? Go ahead. You want to hit that middle button and have the green light come on? Just lean into it, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kelly McCann, and I'm here today in support of banning kratom in Montana in its entirety. I want to begin to thank you for drafting legislation to address this issue, and I'm really honored to be here in person. I have spoke at a lot of committee meetings nationwide, and this is my first in-person one. I am also Benjamin's mom, and Benjamin is my firstborn son and only son among a bunch of daughters, 2 biological and 3 bonus. Our family was devastated by the loss of Benjamin to acute mitragynine intoxication on September 12, 2024. The loss of Benjamin was my true introduction to kratom. Ben was a long-term kratom user. He began taking it for psoriatic arthritis pain as a replacement for prescription pain medication that he had become dependent on. He described kratom as an herbal tea and even encouraged me to take it for my back pain. And with the narrative being supported right now or pushed, I can completely understand why people start taking it without the awareness that it truly meets the definition as a drug, as it impacts the central nervous system as both a stimulant and a depressant, depending on the quantity taken. It was Friday the 13th of all days when 2 deputy sheriffs showed up at my door and told me Benjamin didn't show up for work that day. and he hadn't been late in 7 years, and he was later found deceased. There are not even words to describe the feelings of that moment. But Kratom, the Kratom issue isn't about my grief. My grief is a given no matter what my son would have died from. I'm not looking for something to blame in my despair. I waited for the facts from his autopsy and toxicology from trained medical professionals. And I brought those today, and I'm willing to sit down with any of you and show you his records and stuff. I am really protective of them because the industry has gotten a hold of some of our families' autopsy records and toxicology, and they're posting them on public to push their agenda. And so I don't want my sons out there. They're his, and it's the damage that it does to the families and the devastation is just ridiculous. So the coroner called me after Ben died, and she had never heard of it. She told me the only substance found were bags of kratom in Ben's house, and the police officer had told her it was unlikely he would have died of that because it wasn't synthetic. In the police report, which I brought, the officer reported he was aware of people abusing synthetic kratom, but he didn't see any signs of it. I was stunned that kratom was even being described in that way because I thought it was an herbal tea. I needed to make sense of it, and so that's when I began researching. And during that time, I also picked up Ben's wallet and phone that we're holding at the sheriff's department. I figured out Ben's passcode on the 4th time. I know my son, so I was going through his favorite stuff and got it. And so, which gave me access to his email. And I found an order delivery for a large batch of whole leaf powdered kratom the day before he died, and it was labeled as Asian tea. And the exact brand was Green Mingda and Green Malay. I continued to research, and what I discovered was very concerning. I don't need to repeat the information I found, as you have received it from organizations, families, and during your own search for information. But one of the things that jumped out at me is the chaos of the controversy of kratom. It makes it difficult sometimes for people to get to the bottom line. We have been warned about kratom for years. And Montana chose not to do something about it in 2016. And that's why we're here today, because now it is worse. We have all these derivatives, and they come from kratom. They wouldn't be possible without kratom. And yes, these derivatives are stronger and more dangerous than just plain leaf kratom, but I went to the Law and Justice Committee meeting, and you have that. At the bottom line is kratom and 7-OH are still dangerous. It is not supposed to be for medical use. And that's what it's promoted for. They do. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And so after all this information that I gathered, I had a decision to make. I was overwhelmed with grief. I felt intimidated by the bullying the families endured that did speak out, and I've got some of that. And the idea of public speaking was terrifying to me, and politics were definitely not my strength. My son was very into politics and used to drive me nuts with them. And so, but here I am, and it's been interesting. So, and ultimately, I had to ask myself how I'd feel if I didn't speak out, and I didn't like that answer, so here I am. And one of the questions I've asked other politicians and people close to me is, how can I get people to listen? Because this is a $1 billion industry, and I know what I'm up against, the pitfalls. And they said, well, bring it in their backyard. Well, it is in our backyard. It's in our stores. It's in our homes with the click of a button. I actually ordered some of the stuff that my son did. They didn't ask for my age. It was just boom. And one of the Louisiana hearings, the senator that was pushing the bill, he got a free sample from the AK site with the GMP approved vendors, and so and in that hearing too, somebody was justifying kratom working for kids with ADHD because they're children, but they didn't want to come testify because they didn't want to be ostracized. So that one really got to me as a mom, a grandma, and an educator, So I'm very passionate about this. So with that, I would like to leave you with a quote that really resonates with me. Many of us became accidental activists, not out of rage, but out of heartbreak, because somewhere along the way we realized that silence helps no one, not the earth, not our children, and not each other. So thank you for hearing me today and all that you do.
Thank you.
And I'm open for questions if you want, and these are all his records if any of you want to, for my credibility.
Thank you, Ms. McCann. Are there any further public comments?
Okay, there we are. Good morning, Senator Noland and members of the committee. My name is Beth Price. I am a certified substance abuse prevention specialist out of Cascade County. Now, the word prevention kind of gets used interchangeably with everything from cancer prevention to suicide prevention, and I want you to understand what substance abuse prevention is. If you think of addiction as a river, prevention specialists are upstream, making sure the bridge didn't wash out, making sure the shore is solid, and making sure there's nobody throwing kids into the river. Because we do have industries that target our kids. I'm sure you're all aware of the history with big tobacco. I mean, Joe Camel was a huge thing when I was a kid. So this is another industry that is throwing kids in the river. And it is my job as a prevention specialist to advocate and educate. And part of that is working on policy work, be it at the city, county, state, or national level. So that's why I'm here today. And I appreciate all the time you've taken to try to understand this complex issue. But I want to ask you just one thing above all else, is listen to the Montana voices. Over the past year, I'm sure you've heard from lobbyists and trade organizations and manufacturers, and they have every right to participate. But at the end of the day, none of them will raise a child in Montana. None of them will respond to our overdoses. None of them will counsel our families, and none of them will answer 911 calls in our community. The people who will live with this decision are Montanans. Now, I just encourage you to listen to our medical experts, our physicians, our law enforcement, our drug treatment people, and even county health departments. And listen to the parents who have watched their kids struggle or die. And people in recovery are another perspective that you should consider. But whatever way you decide to go, it should be because Montana's evidence and Montana's experience led you there, not because one side had the largest lobbying budget. So remember, when the hearing ends, the lobbyists go home. Our emergency rooms, our schools, our treatment centers, and our families will still be here. So please let their voices carry the greatest weight. And I will be available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bryce. Are there any further public comments? Further public comments? I know we were talking about the kratom ban. There's HJ 55, so if you want to look at our list, if there's any public comment that wants to go over any of these other items, now is our time. We're at public comment. I see some people in the back. I don't know why you're here, but I'm good to see you. Anyway, any further public comment? Okay, we'll now go into committee discussion. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the body. So just for the folks that are following along at home, I want to deeply thank the public comment we had today. It was moving, and it certainly has persuaded, as we've spoken on informally amongst committee members, a majority support for a ban of kratom. And so I do want folks to know that on August 18th, I do intend to motion for the kratom ban. I'll ask to be the bill sponsor as the holdover on this committee. And again, informally, the discussions are amongst us that there's a majority support on this committee. I will like my committee members to know that I am going to oppose the other bill, what I see as an industry-sponsored, quote, compromise bill. I don't know my fellow committee members' positions on that. I think it's fairly mixed, but my intention is to oppose that effort. Regarding the Representative Close, your look at the property manager, I'd like to discuss that more today. I'm very interested. I want folks back home to know we've heard from a number of people around the state that are very interested in that, and it seems that there is going to be majority consensus to do something in that area. So I do invite Representative Close to continue that discussion today.
Okay, thank you. Any further committee discussion? If you look at our list, our schedule, We have another short break. We might skip that. Then we go public comment on any subject that we've talked about today. And if you look down further, our work session, if that, Ms. Vice Chair, if that's okay, where we can work with Representative Close on
Right.
his communication. Okay, great. So, anything above that we want to address? Anybody? On committee discussion? Okay, seeing none.
Wait.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
Representative
I have
Close.
a question for Ms. Price.
Ms. Price.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Price, did you attend the Law and Justice hearing on Tuesday?
Chair Nolan, Representative Close, yes, I did virtually.
Okay, and in that hearing, the Director of Medical Services for the DPHHS stated there might be some Asian studies on kratom, natural kratom. Is that correct?
I don't recall if he covered that
Did
specifically.
he discuss that in the countries of origin, Indonesia and Malaysia, kratom has been banned?
I don't recall.
Did he discuss how any other countries are treating kratom?
I don't recall him saying it. I am aware of those things, but I don't
Okay.
recall him
So,
saying
so
it.
are there other countries that have banned kratom?
Yes. I'd have to look it up, but I believe Malaysia. I don't want to misspeak. I'd have to look it up.
Perhaps
There are a
Indonesia?
number of them.
And Malaysia and Indonesia are actually points of origin?
Yes,
for
that's
these
where
products?
it's grown.
So these products are banned in the countries in which they originate.
That is my understanding, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further committee discussion? Seeing none, do we need a break, anybody? Are we okay to move forward? Okay, now we're going to go to public comment on any topic under the committee's jurisdiction, but not on this agenda. Anybody in the back of the room have any comments? You're just glad to see us today and drive down here to this beautiful Virginia city to support, go spend your money, just so you know. You can't leave without dropping a few dollars, just so you know. Oh, you've done that. Okay, good. All right. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, again, E.J. Redding here on behalf of the Montana Family Pharmacies. And just for a heads up to the committee, we did submit comment in opposition to the rules published for House Bill 740. Public comment does not close on those rules until July 22nd. We don't know what the agency is going to do. So this is just a courtesy, I guess, to let you know that there is opposition to those rules, and we're trying to let the agency get through the process, but fair warning that there is opposition to the House Bill 740 rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Since he came to the mic, does that cause any question for anybody? I don't see any, so, okay. All right. So now let's go into our, since there's no other public comment with anything on the agenda, or that wasn't brought up in this particular meeting, we'll go to our work session, committee discussion. I know it was brought up, and let's go ahead and go into Representative Close's comments, and I guess we can pull up this draft, I guess.
Well, these are MLSA comments, and I'm looking at the statute. It looks like for some reason the legislature in 2023, most of this work was done in 2023, and I'm going to I think I might go look back at some of those hearings. But the gist of these comments is that where someone is managing a large number of property, the fact that they are related to the owner or have a power of attorney from the owner or have some other authority from the owner or acting as an entity by the owner, like LLCs are accepted, that someone managing large number of properties are exempt from the property manager statute. And I think the simplest solution would be basically have a cap which says if you are managing more than X properties, like 500 units of a mobile home park in Bozeman, just because you're the handyman, we don't need a property manager. So I think one solution would be simply allow these exemptions to exist for the ma and pa renter, but have a unit cap. If you're managing more than X units, you know, and then you might have to divert the road because someone can't play the game of putting every single individual unit in an LLC. If you're managing more than X units, you gotta get a property manager. I think that would be my solution to this issue. And you could retain the exemptions for the ma and pa landlords who have a couple buildings.
So you've sat on this committee now for a little while. So when they came and presented, I had a couple people that I asked some questions about the board. So do we want to let them, or should we make recommendations for them to handle this before we have to step in, or what is it
I'm saying as a committee, we can make a recommendation to amend this statute to say that these exemptions do not apply if you're managing 30 units or more, or whatever number we decide.
what I'm getting at?
And after consulting with property managers and,
Okay.
and rental companies.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah. What is the
Yeah.
stand? What is their? What do they see?
Right. Okay, that's what I was getting.
Yeah.
at.
No, we reach out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do something that.
I'm not going to pick
we
a
don't-
number out of the air.
Good. Because my question was, who's going to decide what the cap is? And maybe it is 500, maybe it's 200, maybe it's, but if they're living this, they probably have an idea, and we can ask them,
We can
okay, what
ask.
do you suggest? And we yes, we do.
Because I bet you if we went back and looked at these hearings, there was some rationale for these exemptions that convinced the majority of the legislature in both houses at that time. And I think you probably had a bunch of small land people who own a basement apartment or a couple of units, whatever. And I think that's what happened. But we're not dealing with the large players. The large players are creating situations where their people are not receiving professional management in a situation where professional management is really necessary.
Senator Bolden, did we get your question answered, or, because I'm more open to the understanding what he was talking about. I was a little vague, and now I have a better grasp.
Yeah, the solution is to adopt all their strikes or figure out, you know, accept the rationale for some of these and just make it non-applicable to larger situations.
Okay, so as this committee, we get to send back the information, and do you want to help us understand what specific, because do you want to draft something so on the 18th we can address that, say, let's get some bona fides in here. We want it at, our suggestion, excuse me, is 300. Maybe you guys have a better answer, but we want you to come back before the September meeting so we can make a final decision on what we want to maybe make as a committee bill.
Exactly. So we would instruct staff to draft a basic phrase that these exemptions do not apply to parties that are handling more than X units, and we have to fill in the X.
Okay.
So are we establishing the X?
No, we're asking them for what they think the X should be.
We're
We're
asking
asking stakeholders what the X should be.
So,
And who's doing the X?
Well, I assume staff can request that
So-
the stakeholders appear at the next
Vice
meeting.
Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the body. So, Mr. Weaver, I know we don't have a quorum, but what would be the procedure? I actually would like to see the recommendations from Montana Legal Services codified. And I think it would be possible to draft that by the August 18th meeting so that we would have time to hear from stakeholders. Is that something we can request today, or how would you like to move forward?
Chair, Senator, yeah, so I think there's a couple approaches. One could be I work with Representative Close because each member of the committee has 16 hours of my time that I can devote to whatever their project might be. So I could work with Representative Close on some ideas. Of course, we can't vote for a requested draft today, but I could do something with Rep. Close and have that ready. Additionally, / separately, we could also have on the agenda an HA 55 update revolving around this, and that's just an agenda item that we would add to the August 18th meeting.
Thank you. So,
revolving
Mr.
around
Chair,
that.
members of the body, so my fear is, right, that I do not want to delay, because if we kick the can, then this won't happen. So I would like to make sure that Representative Close does try to utilize as much of Montana Legal Services recommendations into a bill draft that we can see at that August 18th meeting, so that there is potential for a committee member to move that bill forward on that date for a vote. Is that possible?
Chair, Senator, yeah, I will get with Representative Close, and we can discuss some ideas, and then on the 18th, potentially Representative Close could have something to present to the committee, one of his ideas about a potential bill draft.
Great, thank you. And then, Mr. Chair, members of the body, so at the last meeting, we did hear from a representative from the Landlord Association, who, in the discussion related to this bill, and it is mentioned throughout this draft as well, there was a bill that we passed that's the law now. I believe the bill sponsor was Representative Kelly Cordum, and it required landlords to return a great portion of an application fee. And there was discussion during that last meeting relating to the landlord's interpretation that seems to be different than the statutory intent. I would like to have that on the August 18th agenda as well, a discussion related to that bill, to see if by that September meeting, we do need to make any committee discussion of whether that law needs to be tweaked in a more clarifying way. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that when the bill left the House, it applied to all landlords. And then it was tweaked in the Senate to apply only to property management companies who were running units. That's the current, that's as the law stands, my understanding.
So then, yes, so then I would like that put on the August 18th agenda, that bill is in front of us, and that we have a committee proposal for committee members to vote on, making sure that applies to all landlords.
Could I ask a question? Who, it was Representative, whose bill?
I think it was Kelly
Cordum.
Cordum's bill.
Yeah.
Kelly's, excuse me,
Yeah, he
Quorum.
picked up the gauntlet from Representative Pomachewski.
I actually
So-
sponsored it the year before,
Oh,
and
yeah,
it got through the Senate.
Yeah. It's been kicking around for like 4 or 5 sessions.
Okay. Is there any further discussion for committee work? We're in committee work, committee session.
Chair, committee, so based on this discussion and then some of the ideas that I've put forward earlier, looking for August 18 agenda ideas, looks like we'll have something, a chunk of time set aside for HJ 55, addressing the ideas of Representative Close and then Senator Boldman's regarding the application fees. So probably a chunk of time that will split those ideas together, revolving around HJ 55 and property management licensing. We'll also have, I'll try to get as many agencies in as possible to go over their bill draft quests. We'll also hopefully have CSI with us to update us on the information about HJ 61. Additionally, if the committee is interested, we could also have IBHS come in to brief us on the standards that they apply for building standards, which would kind of feed into the hazard mitigation concepts that we've discussed earlier. We could follow up the Kratom, we will follow up the Kratom drafts. We'll have some provisional drafts that day ready to go. And then also a presentation from Montana State Fund. That's the required reports. They're required to give it to the Economic Affairs Interim Committee, so that would be a part of it as well. So those are just some of the main ideas. It would probably be a long day, so be prepared for that. But as it stands from this discussion, that's
Could you enlighten me as to how many agencies you were thinking?
as many as possible.
Well, I know, but we've already heard from like 4, haven't we?
We've heard bill draft proposals from 2, so theoretically it could be 7 or 8.
And then, Mr. Chair, members of the body, I've asked that we have a discussion regarding Virginia City and the Montana Heritage Commission put on the agenda. I do think that I'd like to discuss who's put on a panel. I know that, again, it's going to be a long day, but my expectation by having this meeting here today, and I think everyone's months ago when we planned it was that we were going to have a much more robust presentation and discussion and perhaps even meet the new chair of the commission. And we haven't received an invitation to do anything since we've been here. And I'm just sort of speechless about it. This was an opportunity where you had members of both parties in a, I'll just say it, Economic Affairs is a prestigious committee. We have direct relationship as taxpayers, and we have direct investments in this as a state resource. For years and years and years, Montana legislators, all of us, in April or May, we're always sent a big envelope in the mail inviting us and our families to come to Virginia City. That didn't happen this year. And I'm sort of at a loss at what's going on and why there's not transparency, it doesn't feel like, and why there isn't this sort of relationship with the legislative branch from the Department of Commerce, frankly, and from the folks at the Montana Heritage Commission on what's going on here. And so I would like that to be put on the agenda.
At your request, Mr. Weaver.
Yep, I think I can fit that in there, and just be prepared for a long day. That's the way it goes sometimes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver, looking at this PD 0004,
Okay.
it appears to me that there is no exemption here for local control. Is that correct?
Chair, Representative Close, just based on my recollection of the draft, not that I recall in here, and at a bare minimum, it is just a redraft of 407, and I don't believe that's...
So as currently drafted, if this passed as currently drafted, Yellowstone County, for instance, would not be able to enforce their food health ban?
Chair, Representative Close, I'm not entirely sure how that would shake out. I think there's other statutes that allow local jurisdictions to do their things. How that would interact, I'd have to take a look to get an idea.
Can you address that
Yeah, absolutely.
next session? Thank you.
Okay, we're under discussion. Don't have anything to wrap up, other than I wanted to say I am grateful that I had the opportunity to come to Virginia City. And for all of you who have traveled here, around the state, when we get the privilege, Representative or Senator Bolden, to show up, it does mean something. As I walked the boardwalk today and visited with some of the good folks, they said thank you. And it's a big thank you, it isn't a little thank you. And I think that'll be on record. Is it a little bit inconvenient leaving Helena? Yeah. But guess what? It makes a difference. These citizens need to know we're in their backyard. We're here. We're coming here. And we do listen. The words that you heard from a lot of us today and then from the public comes from our heart. That we care about what happens to our little cities as well as our big cities. We're not just excluding you because, you're a little podunk, you're nothing. I come from one of those. These matter, these things are important. But like I said earlier in the process, government isn't easy. I don't know if you were here when I was making some of my comments, Vice Chair, but it wasn't a slight on people. Could things been maybe presented or gotten out to I use the phrase, the water doesn't always get to the end of the row in a farming analogy. Doesn't always get there. We try, we set things up. I watched what the Department of Commerce did in their knowledge of, in their expressing, this is what we're going to do. I mean, we need to do something. We need to follow the rules. And we are. And that came out pretty clear. And then the next steps and the next steps. And they've heard us, I think, pretty good of what we want to have them do. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I like what they tried to do. Could we have done, maybe tweaked it? Maybe. But they are working their tails off, and I want to tell them, first of all, thank you so much. Some of these citizens don't feel that way, though. They don't feel they got their ear. You have their ear, or vice versa. So we want them to know we do. We're going to go back. We're going to, not to the drawing board exactly, but go back and analyze, look at things, And I know you're gonna become, to present again at different times, and at the next meeting, maybe, we'll see how you want to and how Speaker Lear wants to have you come and present. But I just want to thank everybody for coming. And then I wanted to encourage everybody to walk the boardwalk, and I think we're gonna go mining gold here a little bit later. Some of you wanted to do that. And I know there's a tour, you just gotta figure out how to do that. And somebody was telling me, and then I cut them off, or somebody interrupted me and I forgot how to find out. So I'm gonna go try and do that. And let's do our part and share, like what Senator Baldwin was saying earlier about our little communities. They have a lifeblood, short, they live it in a certain amount of time. We can't cut them off. We have to support them. And as legislators, it's verbal, tell people to go to these little cities, you gotta go check that out. I spent half a day in Virginia City and the night, and then the next day, you should go there. Let's talk these little communities up. Let's do our part to help. And I don't know about legislation wise, but from a standpoint of personal, let's let people know we should go see the rest of our state. They need us right now. They need us desperately. So we invite people to come to the wonderful Virginia City, Nevada City, and all of our little communities and cities around the state of Montana, because we have a lot to offer. We're called the treasure state for a reason. We have a lot of treasure. We have a lot of things to do. It's not just our beautiful mountains and our streams and our fishing and boating, but it's everything that we offer. These wonderful communities that there's little shops. You wouldn't believe some of the trinkets you could find. It's amazing. So come and shop, enjoy, and let's support our communities. Was there anything else that we need to handle?
Can I just get a clarification? So, Mr. Chair, Members of the body, so Mr. Weaver, I guess I understood that we had not been invited on any tours by the Heritage Commission or by anyone from.
No, we can just go.
Oh, we would just go do it on our own. Okay.
Chair, committee, not for me, just otherwise, August 18.
Representative Isley.
Thank you, Senator. I just, I want to agree, first of all, with you on, having, being here as representatives and the importance of that, and supporting this community and supporting the whole, thing that they represent for Montana. I do that, and I appreciate those that came to testify and present, and extremely informational. I'm certainly very glad that I was here to hear that, to get a more broader perspective on the situation. And I think most of us as legislators maybe don't really know the whole story. I do though have to I want to just mention that I was a little disappointed to see that we didn't have a quorum. I'm disappointed to see that those of us, all but one, are of the minority. And that, that we were here for only a half a day. We spend the money as a state to come and be here as a body, but yet, our work here while recognizing the importance of Virginia and Nevada City and hearing great information, and maybe getting a little further on discussion with the Kratom stuff. I feel a little bit like this meeting shortchanged the committee, and it shortchanges then the state, and I feel like that, that somehow I would hope in the future that when we get the opportunity to do something like this, that it's taken advantage, and we bring staff here and so on and so forth, but we take better advantage of the situation. I just felt the need to say that.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that formality, Representative Isley, because I share all of what you just said. As you saw this morning, we're all still doing our day job. My kids running around the streets there today in Virginia City. This commitment for public service is meaningful, and it's costly to our personal lives, but also to the taxpayers. And this was a very disappointing experience. I will say that regarding the opening of this committee, I am going to take my objection to the Rules Committee as well as to Legislative Council. I would like clarification on how a chair can unilaterally sort of discharge a vice chair. It sort of makes my position meaningless with just an oral designation and with no notice not only to the vice chair, but the other members of this committee, or a committee vote at all. So again, I realize we didn't have a quorum today, but I do think that decorum and formalities of how we run these meetings and respect for the minority and majority, there's just a lot of disappointment that I have today in this process, and I am going to take it to the Rules Committee and to Legislative Council. So thank you.
Thank you. With that, you heard when our next meeting is, August 18th. And I will conclude that this meeting be adjourned.